episode of Raven Conversations. I'm Joe C. Mandel, the State Public Affairs Officer for the Washington National Guard. And today I'm joined by three individuals. Major Kevin Robillard, he's a Black Hawk pilot over in our aviation unit. Leslie Mayne, who is the founder of the Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation. And Jessica Kastrup,
yes,
who is kind of her right-hand woman, it sounds like, at the foundation. They're here to talk to us about the foundation, who recently held an event called the Race for a Soldier, which honored a number of soldiers, but for a Guard family. Major Dom Collada, who passed away, was one of the honorees. I believe Dom's wife even sang the national anthem at the event.
She sure did.
Which was fantastic, and I know we flew a Black Hawk helicopter over it. And the Guard was definitely involved. Colonel retired Reed Geikus was there. He definitely was a huge role in that. So they're here to talk about the event, about the foundation, and then how others can get involved in it. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
So we'll kind of go around the table. We'll start with you, Leslie. Kind of give your intro and background on yourself.
Well, that's a lot. 30 seconds or less.
Yeah.
So Leslie Mayne, I'm the founder of the Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation. And cute side story is the last time I actually was here at Camp Murray was to speak in front of about 10, 20 military individuals, all ranks. It was a little bit intimidating. It was back in 2010. And I was just getting started with the idea of the Race for a Soldier. And it was to bring awareness to the high rate of suicide among our soldiers and the reckless living that often we were seeing happen after deployments. And so I wanted to start this race to see if anybody cared besides me. And it turned out that 1,500 people did. But my visit out here was to talk about maybe my experience as a mom and what my son experienced, and then the idea of the race. And it was a little intimidating, and I didn't exactly know what to say. And I looked over to the side, and there was this huge whiteboard, and there was a big, strong PTSD in bold letters, and some soldier had written in there, permission to start dreaming. And that was my aha moment, because my son was on a lot of meds for nightmares and, all the things the psychotropic drugs that are often dispensed. And when I saw the Permission to Start Dreaming, it was like, oh my gosh, that is what it's all about. And so it was a real blessing for me to be out here. And I tried to find out who put those words in there. I couldn't find out who it was. So and I really did try. But anyway, I ran with it. We stole it. And it's now the name of the foundation.
Yeah.
So, and as we were talking before, Joe, I sort of cringe when people call us the PTSD Foundation, because we're trying to eliminate the D. It's not a disorder. It is something you can work through, but it does take intention. Yeah. So that's my 30 seconds.
No, it's great. That's a great story. And I guarantee that soldier probably thought they were in trouble for writing on the whiteboard.
Well, and it was very faint. Nobody even probably saw it. But I was desperately needing some kind of, I was pretty intimidated. There was a lot of brass in the room. And I think they had invited me to talk about, my experience as a grieving mom. And I really was still grieving. So I was really nervous. And I needed those words. So it truly was divine intervention, and then we have been able to use it in a really powerful way. And to a person, when people find out what our name is, it's usually the wives that get the tears first, and then the soldiers, but they get it. Permission to start dreaming, and it's sort of a universal. It could address all of us. Whether you're civilians or in the military, we all need permission to start dreaming.
Yeah.
So,
Jessica, how about you?
So, thank you for having us here today. I came to the foundation about 1.5 years ago to help with their events, and I was a military spouse for 20 plus years. When I met my husband then was in the National Guard, so that's kind of how I came to know about the National Guard. And I've just loved every minute of the last 1.5 years watching this race grow and our other events grow, and being involved with the foundation and all the good work we do in our community. Yeah. It's very empowering and something that I feel blessed to be a part of.
Oh, that's fantastic and great guard story. I mean, both of you, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we come to you, Mr. Robillard.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Major Kevin Robillard. I'm an Army aviator. I'm the operations officer over at the 1st of the 168 GSAB. I've been in the military for about 17 years, so it's gone by in the blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. To be completely honest with you, I had never heard of the PTSD Foundation prior to this event, but Colonel Retired Geikus had reached out. He submitted an air mission request form to see if we could do a flyover for this event. When I saw it, and in the notes column, he had mentioned that this was specifically to honor Major Dom Collada and his family. I took notice right away, and we can talk about this a little later, but Dom and I had served together in Afghanistan 2019 and 2020 with the Special Operations Detachment Pacific here in the Guard. And so when I saw Dom's name on there and noticed that he was attached to the mission, I immediately wanted to participate. So any way that I could get my hands on that, I wanted to be a part of it. So I spoke with my boss, who said, yeah, absolutely, why don't you take point? And we were able to make it happen. So that's how I learned about the foundation. That's how I got to work with both of you. That's how I got to participate. And it was just absolutely an honor. So
yeah. Well, so they shared their guard stories, but how did you learn about the National Guard?
So to be totally honest with you, I was a lost 26-year-old. I was working in the restaurant business, making that tip money, which was awesome, serving, bartending, doing room service. But I didn't feel like I had any purpose or direction in my life. So I made the decision a little bit later in life that I was going to throw down my apron from the restaurant and I was going to join the Marines. I was going to join the Marines that day. So I went and talked to a Marine Corps recruiter. And it was these two recruiters. I remember it vividly. I went into their office, and these two just jacked Marine Corps recruiters. And I said, hey, I'm really interested in joining the Marines. What do you have to offer? Because I wanted to know about education benefits and becoming an officer and what I could do with the Marine Corps. And they said, no, don't worry about that. You're going to be a Marine. And I said, okay, yeah, that sounds awesome. But what about like going to school and getting my degree? And they said, no. You're going to be a Marine. And they were like high-fiving each other and stuff. So I decided at that point that I was going to go talk to some other recruiters. So I went and talked to a National Guard recruiter who said, hey, we can get you back to school. We can give you a tuition stipend. We can make sure that you get a scholarship. We can get you through the ROTC program and give you a commission as an officer. We'll let you choose your branch. We'll pay you the whole time. I mean, the benefits were just endless. Yeah. And so within that week, I had signed and committed and decided that I was going to join the National Guard. So, and it was honestly the best decision. Well, I'm married, so it was the second best decision I've ever made. So,
and after children, it's the third best thing.
Yeah, third and fourth. Yeah, fourth best decision that I've ever made.
That's a great story.
Yeah, I haven't looked back, and it's been awesome. The opportunities that I've had with the Army, with the National Guard, I mean, second to none. And I've experienced some things that I never would have had the opportunity to experience outside of the Guard, and I've made some friendships that will last a lifetime. Yeah. So it's pretty awesome.
No, and we were just literally talking about that, and I'm glad that we were kind of getting a chance to chat about the friendships and the family feeling you get with the Guard.
For sure.
So let's talk about the foundation. This is kind of where I point to you, ladies. You kind of gave us a rough, quick glimpse on it, but what is the foundation? The prepare or permission to start dreaming, because I know I'm going to stop myself from saying PTSD quite a bit, and I want you guys to kind of talk about it, because I think it's fantastic just in our conversation about what you're trying to do.
Well, and I would backtrack a little bit. My son Kyle did join the Washington State National Guard after 9/11. His cousin Shelley Marshall was at the Pentagon on that day, and she perished that day.
Oh, wow.
Her two littles were just in the child care 100 yards next to her, and her husband, Don, actually was on the other side of the Pentagon. So that's a whole incredible story. But Kyle was going to college at the time playing football. He wasn't a great student. He loved football, but, he was looking for some purpose as well. And then 9/11 happened, and October of that year, a month later, Kyle and I went back to visit him. He was playing in Connecticut. He came down to Virginia, and we sat in that room with the Farr family. And if you've ever sat in a room with a 9/11 family, you'll never forget it. And I know that was the moment for Kyle that his purpose had been found, and he came back here. He quit school. He joined the Guard first, and I actually used to bring him lunch out here, and we'd hang by the lake or somewhere. I can't exactly remember, but a couple of times. And then as the war heated up, he knew that he would be going off in one way or the other. So he jumped over to the United States Army, and there was some paperwork involved. Next thing I know, he's in Fort Lee, and then he's off to Iraq. But you ask about the foundation and the mission of it, and so Kyle served for several years. He had one or two deployments. Something went really, really wrong over there for him, and when he came back, he was a different young man, and he served some time at Walter Reed, dealing with post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury, which he'd been diagnosed. And then when we went back to visit him, his dad and I, who lives in Virginia, and I lived out here, we sat in a room at Walter Reed with, I like to say, well-intentioned psychologists and doctors and counselors. But they decided he should be treated over at Perry Point VA Hospital in Maryland. And so on that day, it was determined that they would move him over there, and he would be treated for various amounts, addiction, suicidal intonations, all the things. And he was there from December 2008 to March of 2009. I talked to him on a regular basis as best I could. We didn't have cell phones as much as we did, so he'd have to stand in line in the corridor somewhere. And I had one or two teleconferences with a psychologist he was working with. But basically, he called me on March 6th and said, "Mom, they tell me I'm just taking up a bed and I can self-medicate. What do you think?" And I'm out here trying to move heaven and earth to figure out, okay, what program is here? How do I help this soldier the best that I can? And as a mom, of course, I'm, just terrified as to what that looked like. And I said, well, Kyle, we're going to figure it out. And they just charged him on that day, and he found a Baltimore hotel room on March 7th and didn't wake up. I would submit to you that none of us know really if it was intentional suicide or if it was just reckless. He had all the psychotropic drugs in his body and some other things that are never going to be a good outcome. But the end result is the same. We lost our son, and he was 27. He served honorably, and he loved this country, and he loved his family, and I know he wanted to live out a life like both of you wonderful gentlemen are living out. So that sort of threw me off the cliff, and it was rough. There's no doubt about it. That first year of walking through that kind of grief is sobering, to say the least. And I tried to find out if I could medicate myself a little bit, and Ambien and a bottle of wine every night. But at some point, I think I got a beautiful strong suggestion from the good Lord, that I had 3 other adult children. I had to find a way to honor Kyle's service and help other soldiers. I didn't want to see others, and you could look in the News Tribune every single day and saw the staggering statistics of men and women that were living a really reckless way when they came home from war. So my determination then was, let's start a race. I'd started running, and I thought, you know what? If we put a race together, let's see how many people we can get that care this much about our soldiers, and maybe we could raise a little money and find alternative programs that could really work through trauma, because it doesn't discriminate, and taking that struggle and turning it into your strength. Those were really all, I just wanted to see different outcomes and more opportunities and options. There just weren't any. We weren't really talking about PTSD in a way that actually you could work through it. We were just labeling it, and it had a stronghold. If you got that diagnosis, horrible, like, you were just marred for life. And that's what I wanted to see, if I could be a small part of affecting some change and changing the paradigm. So the race, as I said earlier, saw about 1,500 people, and remarkably, we had so many people come along the way. The USO, Don Langen over there, he he took me under his wings. He allowed us to use his nonprofit status so we could funnel the money through the USO because we didn't have a nonprofit status yet. And then I made the trip out here and I saw that PTSD, Permission to Start Dreaming, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's the name of our foundation. We're going to flip this bad boy on its side. And I got to meet the most outstanding people along the way, and everybody had the same desire, is how can we change the way we treat trauma? We owe it to y'all. You raise your right hand, you're one of the 1% that serve this country and the sacrifice that goes with it. And I just wanted to find compassionate allies that would walk with me on this journey, not having any idea where we're going to be now. We can talk about that now, but that was the genesis. Mm-hmm. And then the desire was to find those programs that had sustainability and that they had, they weren't just a one-off, that there was training or there was practices or there was counseling, whatever that was.
And proven success.
And something that had sustainability beyond just having a service dog or, climbing a mountain. All those are feel-goods. But how do we really walk through trauma? Because trauma can have a stranglehold on you, and we know that, right? So, that's and so where we are now, of course, is the way it's evolved is just extraordinary. I mean, we deliver a program called Warrior Path meaning progressive and alternative training for helping heroes. And it's a beautiful reset. It's a 6-day program. The founder of it is Ken Falk at Boulder Crest Retreat back in Virginia. Again, another beautiful story of how, we crossed paths and I found him, and then I kept knocking at the door through the years to see if he would see that we could be a venue to provide this program. And we can talk about that, but that's what we're doing now, as well as other monthly huddles for heroes that we make dinner together and we break bread together. It's a safe and honoring place for them to walk into and share their stories, because every soldier has one, and they should be heard. And then we have Matters of the Heart, which maybe you want to talk about a little bit.
It's similar to the huddle that we provide once a month for the service members or first responders that we also serve. The MOTH program, Matters of the Heart, is the once a month, and we have dinner and meal, and it's for the spouses, and we just get together, and it's we're all of the like mind and can share our stories and use each other as a resource or a shoulder or an ear or whatever may be needed at the time, and kind of rally around one another when there's a need.
Yeah. You brought up a good point, and I think it's no secret. I mean, I think every news organization across the country covers the astonishing rate of veteran and service member suicides, and I appreciate you for bringing that up. When you look at your program, is that kind of a big part of it, right? Is how do you stop that? How do you maybe not stop it, but how do you help when that need is there? Mm-hmm. Like, is that kind of what you guys are looking at with your programs?
So the Ken Falk, who is the founder of Boulder Crest Foundation back in Virginia, retired EOD guy, wonderful man. He saw the same problem back in Virginia. He and his wife owned 200 acres in Virginia around 2008, 2009. Seeing the same things that we were. And they had this beautiful property, and when soldiers from Walter Reed or other soldiers that Ken and Julia knew, they would invite them out to their spot in this beautiful, it's underneath the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's just beautiful northern Virginia, Loudoun County. And my son Kyle, actually his marker is out there in Hamilton. And so I was visiting Kyle one year after the first race, and I saw this remarkable property with the beautiful signage, Welcome Home Heroes, and I looked at it and got to, get on their website, and he had created a program, a 6-day wellness program, based with the experts in that mental health field that he scoured the United States with. When he saw the devastating stories coming out, he wanted to do something too. So he found Dr. Rich Tedeschi at University of North Carolina, There were a couple of other experts in the mental health field that he relied on, and understanding that struggle can be turned into strength, but we can't get hung up on, a lot of things that we do. And so he created this program, this Warrior Path program, and started inviting soldiers to come for the 6 days. And it's a series, it's a curriculum of, 50 different curriculums, training wellness to turn the way we see trauma, difficulty in our childhood. There's studies that, a lot of soldiers maybe have struggled in childhood, family of origin issues that sort of stayed with them. They joined the military. They kept stuffing them in the rucksack, and then it all sort of blows up to no pun intended. But just a lot of struggles through the years that they don't really address until marriages fall apart, or addiction gets worse, or finances are in the toilet. All the different things that can happen if you don't address the root cause. And so the Warrior Path program is designed to do that. And the numbers don't lie. Bernie Marcus and Arthur Blank, who started Home Depot, they're in their 90s now. They're extremely generous. They love our soldiers. They love our law enforcement and first responders, and they want to help be a part of the solution. And so they've thrown a ton of money and support. The Gary Sinise Foundation, the same. And now we have been invited to be one of 9 other organizations, so there's 10, from Sheepdog to Gratitude America to Camp Southern Ground in Atlanta. I could name all of them, but for the purposes of this conversation, there's 10 wonderful organizations that have been invited to be part of offering this program once a month. And as we speak, there are 10 veterans who are no stranger to Camp Murray or across the freeway, who have served this country honorably, but they need a reset and they need a recalibration. And it doesn't mean that they're suicidal necessarily, just something ain't right. And so they are, as we speak, at this program that we are running. And we currently lease a property in Port Orchard, but our dream, and it's going to happen sooner than later, because I got this gal on our team, is to build our own wellness retreat or center, if you will, for the men and women that have served this country. And we're going to have our own place in the Pacific Northwest. We're the only organization that doesn't. Everybody else has their own. So we rent a facility. But the numbers don't lie. The statistics don't lie. The outcomes of this program, and it's not a one-off. I mean, once you spend a week with these men and women that you didn't know until you walked in those doors, you quickly become close because there's a lot of disclosure in a safe and honoring place. And then there's wellness practices that we put in place. And then there's the camaraderie and the connection, and you've got your new cadre now as you leave. And for the next 6 months, there's an app, there's Zoom calls, there's connection. We continue to touch these men and women for life. I mean, this is now a relationship. So, and it's free. There's no charge. There's simply a willingness to want to do the very personal, intentional work. There's no diagnosis either. If somebody you knew that's just struggling,
Yeah.
and want to turn it around, and maybe gotten into some trouble, maybe not. They make the phone call. They get on our website. They make the phone call. One of our folks who's also a veteran. So it's peer-to-peer training. It's not counseling, and it's not therapy. It's just without sharing all the things, because it's not important. And I've never personally been in there, but I can tell you I know the curriculum pretty well. And to a person, I have met the men and women that come out of this program, and the results are phenomenal, because you're leaders now. When you leave the military, we need you to continue to lead. God knows this country needs men and women with your experience and your background and your commitment to excellence. And we need you out there regardless of wherever your military career goes, right?
Right. All of the path guides, as well as Leslie was mentioning, have gone through the training themselves. So it is peer-to-peer training, so they can relate really well.
It's the
I think that's one
concept
of
of
the keys.
post-traumatic growth. That which doesn't kill you will make you stronger. But you have to tackle it, and you have to be intentional about it. And you have to have a willingness to embrace the process of it. But PTG is real, and that's what this program is really promoting, and take that strength from that struggle and then go forward. I didn't mean to talk over you. I'm sorry.
You're not at all. We also have an alliance of other organizations within the PATH program where we can refer anyone who goes through it that may be struggling, that needs more help with certain areas, whether it be addiction, or and Leslie knows much more about this than I do. But there are a lot of resources out there, so it becomes a way for us to connect them to what they might need as well.
Yeah, it's part of a network now. So Ken invited us. I got the call in 2019 in December, right before COVID, and he said, Leslie, he says, you're the little engine that could. And we want to invite your organization. We want you to represent Warrior Path in the Pacific Northwest because there's such a need. What do they say? 68,000 veterans now live in this area that have retired from the military. And then also active duty too. It's a little more challenging, but we can make that work. Also with our law enforcement, our first responders, we've just seen in the last couple of years, and so many of them are former military, right? And so there's a lot of moral injury and trauma that exists. But Ken invited us to be a part of this organization. He personally named the different organizations that he trusted and we knew could put a team together and deliver. And then there's two locations for Warrior's Heart. This is a peer-to-peer, veteran-to-veteran run program to deal with addiction, all kinds of addiction. There's one in Texas and one in Virginia just opened. And I've met these men. They are the real frickin' deal. And it's a 6-week program. Again, it's free. But your wife can't want it more than you do, or your spouse can't want it more than you do. But they are seeing extraordinary success. So it might be that you know somebody that is dealing with addiction. They want to do Warrior Path, but you got to be clear-headed. You can't walk into, if you're using, Warrior Path's not going to work for you. But we have a place for you to go. If you've been diagnosed with traumatic brain injury, we've got 10 locations across the country that are seeing remarkable success. And again, that's why we do the fundraising, so it's free of charge. We are only asking that you have an open heart and willingness to embrace the suck, as they say, and go through it. But when we get to meet these women and men that go through it, they come in and they're alone with just their peers, their trainers, and the kitchen, and maybe one or two other people come to visit. Songwriting for soldiers comes in, and they're an amazing. There's so much of this program that is so meaningful and impactful, transformational, really. And when we get to meet them as they're about to leave and go back to their homes, whether it's here in the Pacific Northwest or Georgia or wherever they are, we don't want any barriers. So if there's somebody in Florida that needs to go to Warrior Path, but they don't want to wait for 3 months to get in because Gratitude America has a wait list, we fly them out here. So it's free. And the USO is a wonderful partner. You want to talk about that?
Well, you know more about the USO than I do. The USO helps us at the airport here, certainly. Whenever anyone flies in, they'll house them and feed them, and we make sure we pick them up.
Yeah, we pick them up, but you can imagine if you've got a soldier that's coming in from Tennessee, he's gotten on the plane, he knows he's supposed to be going to Warrior Path, he knows this is a good move, it's not going to kill him, it's going to make him the best version of himself, and get rid of that baggage and then move forward with purpose and passion. But there's still a part of him that's dragging his foot. So when he gets off the plane at SeaTac, how beautiful it is to have someone from the USO that is, they're legitimate, they have a wonderful reputation, they're a trustworthy partner. And so that was a beautiful idea of Don Langen's to, well, why don't we pick them up, we'll take them to the lounge, and then when your people get there, then that's another touch of someone trustworthy. Because what we've heard through the years is that when soldiers are struggling with post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury or some of the other struggles, there's a lot of broken promises along the way, a lot of false hope that's instilled, and we never want to have that reputation. We never, things happen that can't prevent. Maybe somebody's ready to go and then mom dies, or something catastrophic happens. We give them grace. They get to go again, but 2 or 3 times we might say to them, you know what, timing is everything. Maybe this isn't the right time. So a lot of grace. It's all done with grace and love. It's not punitive. It's let us walk you through some of the worst horrors of your life. Let's find them. Sometimes soldiers don't even know they're there until they get into Warrior Path and a lot is discovered.
So, like Kevin, I did not know anything about your foundation until Colonel retired Geikus reached out about the Race for a Soldier. So how did he get involved with it?
Yeah, that's up your alley. You can speak to that.
Came on to the foundation of April of 22, and Colonel retired Geikus reached out to us via email closer to the race that September. So it was probably in August, via email, just asking if we partner with Wear Blue Run to Remember at our race, and he was requesting Dom's A-frame and photo be placed out on our course. And so that's how we connected originally. And then we learned about Brian Bradshaw as well. And so we worked together to have both of their photos on the same space on that Wear Blue mile at the end. And
It's the last mile.
the last mile, yeah, it's beautiful. And he and Kate have been running the race for years, but I just met them that year. And so our relationship just grew from there. And then at the end of the race in 22, I think I asked him if he might be interested in being involved in 23, because we've always dreamt of having a flyover, and he might just be the man. When I saw his signature line and where he worked, I thought he might be the one to help us. And so the relationship just grew from there. And then a year later, our dreams came true.
And I got to meet Erin, and turns out she can sing. And
Beautifully.
Yes, and I hadn't picked or found a national anthem singer yet. And we always pride ourselves that we get the best, and we're not just going to bring anybody up. It's a song that needs to be sung, and I want the children that come to the race. I want them to have a sense of, understand the honor and dignity that goes behind every man and woman that signs up, and why we salute the flag and why we sing the anthem. And so I met with her for coffee, and it was supposed to be, a half hour, and it turned into 2 hours, and fell in love with her.
Yeah.
And asked her if she would sing. You talk about a compelling moment, and people had tears in their eyes. She's singing "You're Up in the Sky Somewhere." It couldn't have been scripted. It's better than a Hallmark movie. It was extraordinary. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, and on top of being a guardsman and deploying with you, Kevin, Dom was a Pierce County sheriff. He was killed in action doing his sheriff job. But you had the pleasure of deploying with him. I only worked with him a couple times. So when you saw this event and it came across your desk, you immediately knew what you had to do. Just give us that kind of sense of who Dom was and why you were so compelled to we have to do this.
Yeah, so Dom and I met in 2017. We, just by chance, both ended up in the same unit. We joined the Special Operations Detachment. I was there as an aviation liaison and a planner. It's a 40-person unit, so talk about, being part of a family. It doesn't get much more intimate than only 40 people in your unit. But I remember meeting Dom on the first day or the second day when I was at the unit. And Dom was one of those guys where when you think through your life or you think through your military career, some of the highest praise that you can give somebody is to say, he's a good dude. That's a good dude. Dom was a good dude. Dom was one of the best dudes, to be honest with you. And you could tell that right away. When I first met him, he had a magnetic personality. So people were just drawn to him. Fast forward a couple years, that was 2017. So in 2019 through 2020, he and I deployed to Afghanistan together. He was in our intelligence section. I was in the operations section. But we were on the same tiny little American base inside of a much larger Afghan base. So I got to see him and work with him basically every single day. Kind of a fun fact, our sons who are now about 5.5 years old, were born 2 weeks apart. So the fact that we had infant children that we were FaceTiming with every day and seeing our sons and not being there for their first steps and some of their first words as they started talking, but seeing it on FaceTime, he and I were able to kind of bond that way because we were talking about that while we were there. But just to be around Dom, we were both Seahawks fans too, so that's one of those fun things that we had in common. To work with somebody on a daily basis for an entire year, you get to know them pretty well. And I'm talking every single day. There was no weekends, there was no breaks, there was no time off. I saw him every single day. And so that grew the relationship quite a bit. So fast forward to this AMR that comes across the desk, and it says "Race for a Soldier." And in the notes again, it said this is in memory and honor of Deputy and Major Dom Collada. So when I saw that, I'm not the type that likes to swoop down on missions and take them for myself, but in this situation, I felt compelled to raise my hand and say to my boss at the time, "Sir, it would be an honor if you'd let me take this mission and be the pilot in command for this flyover." So I had a vested interest in helping it get pushed through the process, get approved through all of the appropriate approvals so that we could actually execute the mission. And I pushed really, really, really hard for it because I definitely wanted to do it. So huge team went into the planning aspect. We met you out at the YMCA in Gig Harbor. We did the walkthrough. We planned the route. We knew where all the runners were going to be. We walked through the process on what would be the best flyover and what would look the best. Came to a decision, and fortunately, let's back up a couple days. So they did the prayer breakfast on Friday of that weekend of execution, and I was with my boss. We were driving over to participate in the prayer breakfast, which was awesome, by the way. But as we're going across the Narrows Bridge, it was so foggy, and this was on Friday. The race was on Sunday. It was so foggy that I'm like, there's no way.
We were all a little worried.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, you're going across the bridge, and you disappear into a cloud bank, basically. So that was really stressful because I really, really wanted this to happen. I think we got the final approval either that Friday or maybe Saturday.
It was on Friday. So for clarity on this, so when a flyover comes, it comes through our office. Any flyovers also then go national to National Guard Bureau, and then it goes to the Department of Army's Public Affairs Office. And we were stressing about it all week prior, like, because we'd gotten the state approval, National Guard Bureau had already approved it. We were just waiting for the final okay from Big Army, and I think we got that on Friday afternoon of a Sunday flyover.
And I think you got about 45 text messages from me prior to that.
Between you and Colonel Seaglock, Lieutenant, or now Captain Payne, I probably was on my phone most of Friday trying to get this thing
every hour on the hour. Hey, any update yet? Bottom line, we obviously got the approval. Friday, the weather was terrible, so I was stressing out. Saturday, not much of an improvement, but then Sunday morning, we woke up, we made a call. It was beautiful. Mm-hmm. There were a few clouds here and there, but overall, skies were clear, and we were a go for the mission, so that was a huge relief. When we do a flyover, for the most part, an aircraft will loiter and wait for their inbound signal. We had JTACs on the ground at the site, which were providing us with cues, which was awesome. Those guys did a fantastic job. So we're loitering kind of around the south end of Vashon Island, and we're just waiting, and we're doing circles. And we're just going to wait until we get that inbound call, and then we're going to make our way inbound because we want to be there right on time. So we're doing big circles, and as you can imagine, doing circles after a little while gets kind of boring. And so I'm doing circles, and then I hand the controls off to my pilot, and he's doing circles, and the sun is coming up over the horizon. Again, it's relatively clear. There's a few clouds. But just picture the scene. We're over the water. The Puget Sound is beautiful. The sun is coming up, so we got sun in our eyes. I handed the controls off to my pilot. He's doing a circle. And in that moment, I just felt gratitude for being able to participate in this. And I just had this overwhelming feeling of gratitude. And I will tell you, and I shared this with a couple of my pilots afterwards, in that moment, I felt Dom there with us, which was incredible. So to be able to participate and honor Dom in that way, but then to know that he was there was pretty special. That's something that I will never forget. So absolutely my honor to be a part of that. So Thank you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
And this wasn't the only guard part, right? You mentioned the JTACs. The Air Guard had a heavy involvement too. I mean, with the JTACs there providing you guys with support. I believe the Western Air Defense Sector even made food for all the runners too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was that
Something
tent.
else.
That tent was so awesome. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Mary Bradshaw was able to be there too.
This was the first year we had a tent for the fallen and honored both Dom and Brian through that tent, and had beautiful write-ups that your team all worked on. We helped get them printed, so we had just beautiful images and stories, friends and family, and it was such an honor to watch the families walk up and see that tent,
well, and for the community too.
to see what we do.
You know, I remember Dom's funeral, and my sister lives in Puyallup, and she wanted me to come over because a group of them, we didn't know him, we just knew what had happened, and we wanted to honor him. So for, I think, more community members, civilians in particular, who come to the race and they bring their children, and it bleeds red, white, and blue anyway, and that just brought it home and allows the community to understand that, you know, there's a sacrifice in this, and it was just beautiful. I mean, I hope we can continue to grow it, because I think that it's what is needed is any outreach that we can have with our military community, and then bring y'all over there for that morning. It's part of fostering a sense of responsibility on their part. Like, what are you doing? You know, we all can serve. You don't have to necessarily put a uniform on, because I think a lot of civilians don't know how to do that. They want to. They might serve in their church, but there could be bigger ways that they could, and maybe fostering those relationships. So that went a long way, in my opinion. And those wraps,
So,
man.
so you already kind of mentioned looking forward and getting others involved. Is there a date for next year's race?
The date is September 8th, Sunday, September 8th, at the YMCA in Gig Harbor as the start and finish. And we would love for people to look to that date to participate in any way they can, whether it be through volunteering, donating, running. We have a lot of vendors at what we call base camp, which is the finish line area where they set up booths. We love to work with like-minded organizations serving veteran populations to fill up our base camp area. And registration will be open in the very beginning of February. So by February 1st, we will have registration open. There will be a military discount embedded into the registration process. And what am I forgetting? Anything?
Well, we have a couple other events too that we would love to grow the involvement, if you will. We have the Swing for a Soldier, which is a golf tournament, which sells out pretty quickly. But I'm thinking more of like the prayer breakfast, or the Pull for a Soldier, which is the competitive trap shoot event. It's a really fun event, and I mean, I think we do our events really well. The prayer breakfast is just a safe and honoring place for soldiers to tell their stories, and it's meant not to be a fundraiser. It's meant to be illuminating, inspirational. We've had extraordinary speakers through the years. We're in our 14th year. This will be our 14th race. The fact that we're still growing it and it's making even more of an impact sort of blows my mind, because didn't really know where it was going in the beginning. But it turns out that there are a lot of community members that do care very much about you folks and what you do, and that's their way of showing up. So
the prayer breakfast is always the Friday before the race. The race is on a Sunday, so the prayer breakfast will be September 6th. And Leslie always brings in phenomenal speakers. It will really move you if you take the time to come and have breakfast with us.
And I can verify that. It is
Yes.
exceptionally moving. Being able to attend that was huge. So
that's
thank
sort
you.
of high
Thank you for the
praise
invite.
coming from you, because I'm sure that you all have been to many, breakfasts and conferences and things like that, and it starts to feel like, it's just speaking to the choir. But it is meant, I mean, the prayer breakfast was inspired by Jay Redmond, Lieutenant Colonel, I think he was, yeah. And I had heard him speak in 2010 in New York, shortly after he'd been, injured pretty severely. And his speech, he stood up there not as a victim, and he had, 30 probably surgeries ahead of him, not really knowing. But he spoke about how God met him on the battlefield and what that was to him. And that just, when I was flying home from that event, I said, the race for soldier isn't enough. I want to find the J. Redmonds out in the Pacific Northwest or somewhere to tell their remarkable story so that the rest of us can stand up a little straighter and maybe, pick up our game a little bit. And so that's how it got started. And then years later, I got to meet Jay and invited him to speak at our prayer breakfast. And so he did that 2 years ago, 2020. And so yeah, I'm always looking for inspirational stories because every soldier has one. And I think the more we offer that opportunity for the civilian world in particular to hear those, and not one of victimhood or oh poor me, it's how did you survive it and how did you thrive after trauma. And we all need to hear those stories now more than ever, I think.
So I think my final question is, how do others get involved? And I know you guys have kind of touched on it a ton of times, but
Sure.
Well, follow us on our social media channels for sure. Visit our website at ptsdfoundation.org. Even though we're trying to get away from the PTSD, it is our website address.
It's a lot
in
of
Houston.
letters.
It is. You can find our social media channels listed on our website as well. And they can always email info@ptsdfoundation.org for any other questions they may have.
perfect.
Yeah.
And anything else you guys want to add?
And if you'd like to be a National Guard helicopter pilot, see an Army National Guard recruiter.
Have you started out with the paperwork yet for next year's race?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah, where do we
Let's
need
get
to
it in
sign?
early.
Yeah.
Get it in early so we don't have to wait till the last minute to get the approvals.
Yeah.
Very well. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on and talking about the
Joe, thank
foundation.
you.
I appreciate working with Colonel Yikis. Again, I always enjoy working with him. Always appreciate Kevin and working with our aviation guys. If you're interested in learning more about the foundation, we can definitely put their information in the notes. We can put your contact information in the notes. If you like the video, give it a like. If you have any questions, just comment and make sure you subscribe. Appreciate you guys coming out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What an honor. What an honor.
That's right across the table.